Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. Please sit down. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. It's such an honor and a privilege to be amongst you this afternoon. Pastor Akin, thank you so much for having me again. Thank you, Sister Yinka. I'm at home, right? This is home. And it's such a privilege to be here. But my topic today, and my husband is here with me and my son. Please give a warm welcome to my husband. Thank you. He always supports me. I got my topic is how to future-proof your career. But before I can get into it, it's something that I've been struggling in my spirit. And I was still speaking to my husband today. I said, ideally, when you have a topic like this, and hear me saying ideally, and when you're talking about careers, people are expecting you to come with 10 ways, 10 ways to do this and give you the key and all that. But you know what? I sat down through the night. I've not really slept well. And this is the burden. And I believe I'm at home. You know, as Christians, we're not meant to be hidden. Do we agree with that? Wherever we are, we're not meant to be hidden. And I see people chasing after things that they shouldn't be chasing after. Sometimes I see people seeing what others are doing and thinking that's what they're meant to be doing and trying to achieve what somebody else is trying to do. And because it's not meant to be for them, they're frustrated. And I see people running around and not happy and depressed and setting all these standards and putting themselves under so much pressure when that is not what God has for us. And I sat back and I said, why? Why is this the case? Why is everybody running around? Why is it this rat race? Why is it you go to everybody and they're always chasing after something? Why? And God kept on saying that's not his plan for us. He is our Father. What he has in stock for us is much more than we can ever dream of. And at the same time, I was now looking at the life of one of my friends. And she, you look at her and you think everything is perfect. Honestly, it's like she doesn't struggle for anything. She's never worried about anything. She says she wants to do things and things happen. But my friend's lifestyle is always a challenge. She owns over 10 nurseries. She's very busy. But unfailingly, 4 a.m., she's spending at least, in her busy schedule, 1 hour in the presence of the Lord. And by 5:30, you're getting a message from her. She's so in tune with God. And God just said that's all he wants. The running around, the standards and all that is not for us to do. What he actually wants from us is our time. He wants us to just spend time with him. He wants us to just be with him, fellowship with him, love him. Because in his presence, so much will be revealed. Honestly, this whole world is a mystery. And I don't care what anybody's going to say, it's a mystery. But the key to that mystery is in one man's hand. The person that has created this universe. The person that has created us. So I'm here to talk about how to future-proof your career. And I had to look into my life and look at everything around me. And the fact of the matter is when we talk about future-proofing, we're saying making something fit for the future. Not just for now, but for the future, so it doesn't become obsolete. So this afternoon, I'm hoping in the next 30 minutes, I'll be addressing 3 kinds of people. Even if you don't fall in this category, hopefully what I share, you'll be able to use it. Maybe if you bump into somebody that falls into these 3 categories of people. The first category are people that are probably asking the question, I need money, so should I pursue a bill-paying career or a life-developing career? That's one. The second group of people are those that are asking the question, I have a hobby that I really enjoy. How can I change this into a money-making venture? And the last category of people are, okay, I know my career, I like what I'm doing, but I'm kind of stagnant. And I don't know if anyone in this room falls in those categories. Anyone? Thank you. So at least I've got a few people that I'm be talking to. But most importantly, I looked at all these things I've been talking about, and true success can only be found when you find your God-ordained purpose. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but there isn't any fast way about it. You've got to know what God has actually called you to do. And it's so key. But this is it. I want to read this scripture, Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the things he planned for us long ago. That tells me that he has a plan. So God has designed us. We shouldn't be designing our life. He has already designed us. Right? Another verse, when he was speaking to Jeremiah, he said, Jeremiah 1:5, that he was speaking to, this is a message for Jeremiah. He said, before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you, before you saw the light of day. That's the message. And he continues to say, before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Now, this was to Jeremiah, but I believe that is also to us, that he knew us before we ever came to planet Earth. So God has already designed us. So we don't need to recreate ourselves. What we need to do is discover. We need to go out and discover why he created us and plug ourselves in there. So he has taken time to uniquely wire each one of us. It's a unique journey. And hence, attached to that is a unique purpose. So somebody might be sitting there and saying, I hear all these things about purpose. How do I go about this? For me, there are three things that I think need to be aligned. If anything, there are three things. And the very first thing is you must be passionate about something. So I want us to just take a minute and think about those things, list them actually, that you're passionate about. Can we do that? When I say passionate, something that you just like. And just list a few things down. Some of you might like makeup, you might like singing, you might like talking, you might like running, you might like traveling, anything you like. List it. Are we listing? Are we listing them down, writing them down? Okay, thank you. So by now, I expect you to have a long list. And I'll use myself as an example. So I like singing, I like dancing. And my husband would say, in the terms of singing, he would say, you can't sing. And I'm saying, why would you say that? Because there's another thing you need. You need to have the gifting. So there's a long list. When you have your long list, then you now look at those items on your long list that you have for the gifting for. So you strike out the ones, yes, you've been passionate about, you like them, you strike them off, and now you should have a list that only has the ones you're passionate for and the ones that you have the gifting for. So the list should become a bit smaller. Now we're heading towards finding our purpose. Then the third thing is, you then look about these things. Are they a solution to a problem? In my opinion, if you can find what you're passionate about, that you have the gifting for, and it's a solution to a problem somewhere, somehow, or to someone, if those three things align in there, somewhere in there is your purpose. And it's important that you find your God-given purpose. Hospital in Nigeria. So as a result of that, I love the doctors. For some reason, the doctors looked really wealthy compared to the nurses. My mom was a nurse. So I said, when I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be a doctor. And when I'm doing my science exams, I wear, we used to wear a white lab coat, and I'll take my mom's stethoscope, just behaving like a doctor. And my mom said, no, you are not a doctor, and you're not going to be a doctor. And I thought, why not? And I tried this, and then she took me through the route of seeing a guy, a counselor, a career coach, and eventually it came out that I wouldn't really be good with sciences. Number one, I don't like anything squeamish or blood or anything like that. So how on earth I was going to be an effective doctor was another question. So when we did the test, it turned out that I liked maths a lot, and I do like maths. So they presented before me three options. I could either be an engineer. My dad was an engineer. I didn't particularly want to follow his route. I could be an accountant or a computer scientist. Now, this was 1986. So the most appealing then, computer scientist, because nobody knew about computer science then. I felt this is very novel. That's what I'm going to do. Didn't know what it was all about. Went into university, did it, finished. When I came back to the UK in 92, because that was in Nigeria, I returned back into the UK in 92. All my friends around that we did computer science, it was hot. There were not enough computer scientists. It was, you could get a job. But I struggled. I kept on applying, couldn't get a job. So I thought, okay, maybe I should just retrain. You know, sometimes we think we have all the solutions. So I went and did some courses. And as a matter of one of the courses was a dubious one, so I lost the money. The long and short of it was I was just going round in circles while my friends were getting jobs as a computer scientist. And I was a very good programmer, which was in high demand, and I did all sorts of courses. And I couldn't get a job. But I thank God my spiritual partners were very alert, and I knew that I needed to just take time out and seek the face of God, because it does pay off if you can just take that time and know clearly what is your own route and follow it. It might not be short, it might be long-winded, you might have to go through different corners and things to get to where your destination, but it's very important. Don't just go on that rat race, that race. You need to step back. So I took time out. It took me about 9 months, and it was very clear that my career path was going to be following the accountancy route, which I have never looked back. And I look back at some of my friends that pursued the career, the computer science route. For those that is their calling, they're doing really well. But those that were just doing it, because along the line you find some people, IT, did we all hear about the year 2000 when IT was it and everybody was into it? Some people just rushed into it for the money, and today they're not there. The key thing is, if you want a sustainable, life-developing career, you need to find which one is yours. And I always associate my career with my calling. And my calling is basically why God has created me. My second thing, obviously, I wear the hat of my career nugget. Now, for me, that was just God giving me another opportunity, because that first part, I was so driven. I went all out for my career. I wanted to be the best. I wanted the money. I was really chasing all these things. And if you tell anybody that's been chasing, I have chased, and I was getting it. And then all of a sudden, no plan of my own. Yes, we're waiting for the fruit of the womb. We're waiting for about 14 years. But because of my nature, I don't believe in waiting. I have to be doing things. So I believe I can solve things. I believe I'm very knowledgeable. So I was doing all sorts of things, trying to look for a child. And along the line, I was doing surgeries. I was doing all sorts of things because I wanted a child by all costs. Even when my husband said, let's wait, I said, no, I can't wait. You know, you put this pressure on yourself. I know my age. By now, my mates have children. I need a child. Anyhow, one of the clinics we went to was a private clinic in Harley Street. Everything went well in terms of the surgery, but not quite, because when they were closing me up, they forgot cotton wool in me. And that was life-threatening. I mean, it's good if they could find what the problem was, but by this time, nobody knew that it was cotton wool. There was a foreign body in me. So I went through 19 days of ordeal that I wouldn't go into. But during my ordeal, I would be sitting like this, and I'm not kidding you. I'll be seeing a lot of dead bodies. In the hospital where I was laying, I would see dead bodies. The complications were getting worse. I had a blood clot in my lungs, couldn't breathe, needed assisted oxygen, all sorts. And I was about to give up. And thank God for my praying husband. This was around 7 a.m. He just showed up in the hospital. And while I was about giving up, because I felt I was just going through this tunnel, I'm sure I was dying then. Like, he never had an ending tunnel. And he came in and he just told the nurses he had to see me. And then he hit me and said, you can't give up, you're a fighter. It was in the midst of all this that I said, why then, Lord, are you preserving my soul? Because I was going through so much pain and I was prepared to go. And then I got another picture that all these days that we're living is an opportunity that God is giving us, because he designed us to do something for him in the earth. Yes, he's everywhere, but physically can't be everywhere. So each one of us has a mandate that we need to be doing to support somebody else beside us to do something. It's not all about ourselves. So my focus changed from myself in terms of I wanted money to do this and that. My focus changed differently to be that vessel that God could use in different ways. And sometimes that's the pause that we need. Not that I don't want anybody to have an illness, but what I'm saying is you need to stop. If you're not clear about your purpose, stop running. You need to take time out and find what your God-given purpose is. It's a unique one because you're uniquely wired. There are no two Morenike Ajayis, and there's not going to be two of you. You need to really find that you've been designed for, and then you'll be able to flourish in it. Oh, sorry, thank you. Another story I want to talk about is, in terms of finding your God-given purpose, sometimes you might look at it and think, it's nothing, it's just something that I like doing. Some of you have hobbies, but they're actually your purpose. So I met this cleaner in a couple of years ago in a salon. She didn't have her papers, but she was in the salon. She loves cleaning, and you could see her putting all her passion into the cleaning. And all of a sudden, I got tempted to, converse with her. And I asked her, I said, do you like what you're doing? Do you want to do anything else? All she wants to do is cleaning. So I asked the owner of the salon that, would she mind her cleaning my house? How much do you pay? And she said for the whole day, she only pays her £10 for the whole day. So she gets there like 10 and leaves 5 and £10. And I said, would she mind just coming to my house and I'll give her £20 for 4 hours? I could only do, at this time, it's over 10 years ago. And I said, once a month, at least do proper cleaning. And even when I gave her £20, she would give me a £10 change back because, she just loved doing it. It was only 4 hours. And I just called, I said, you really love this. This is for people that, you have a hobby, whether you can make money from it, that I'm sharing this story for. And she said, I said, you're so good at this. Have you thought about, sorry, as I'm talking, hopefully you get things that you can pick along. I'm a bit of a storyteller. I said, have you thought about going for MVQ cleaning? Because I believe that cleaning is more than just cleaning. Maybe there's something else you could use for glass, something else for wood, something else for carpets. At least be knowledgeable about that. Be a master of this thing. Don't be a jack of all trades. Don't worry. Thank you. Don't worry. Let me put this to shave. Okay, so I said, do this. And she listened, and she went off. And this is about 10 years ago. We live in Gravesend, Kent. The lady I'm talking about now, all the care homes in our Gravesend, she has the cleaning contract for it. What am I saying? These hobbies can be turned around, but it has to be in line with your purpose. It's got to be something that you're passionate about. She was passionate about it. You've got to have the gifting for it, and it must be a solution to a problem. If your hobby is just something that you are just enjoying and it hasn't got those 3 things, it's going to be very difficult for you. But if there's a need for it, and it's because it was a solution to me, and to the glory of God, she still cleans our house until about 6 months ago. And she's now put one of her own staff, can you imagine, in there, cleaning our house. For me, that's a testimony. But all these things, they require hard work. Sometimes we want a quick fix. We can look at different people that are very successful out there. It requires a lot of hard work. It requires investment. I say this all the time. And that investment is investment in time, investment in money, investment in your thinking capacity. It just requires that investment. If you don't invest in all those different areas, you're not getting anything back. It also you need to invest in relationship building. And that bit I'm going to dwell a little bit on, because sometimes in our networks, we're very comfortable in the church, and that seems to be the only network we are. And pardon me, Pastor Akin, for saying this, but if we really want to impact the world, it's beyond these 4 walls. It's beyond the relationships we have here. Now, I'm not saying don't have these relationships, but you need to break out of that cadre if you really want to make an impact, and it affects your career. The way career is going, or business, or anything out there, you need that network. You just need it. And you need to be out there. People need to see you. And there are different ways where you can network. But nowadays, with the digital age, there's still the traditional way still goes I know we've got the digital and we have Facebook. I think I have, is it unlimited when you have 5,000 in Facebook or whatever? But do I know half or 25% of those? No. You can do those things and still have all your digital networks, but you have to work your relationships. You have to be strategic about it. If you're aiming for the next level in your career or business, so your business might be turning as in your career, if you want to move to the next level, you cannot be flocking with the people at that next level. The fact of the matter is, when I'm talking about, so my networks, they're all boxed up. I have my social network. If I want to have a good party, I know the friends I call. And it's true. If I want to talk about my career, I know the friends I call. If I want to talk about my spiritual journey, it's so key. I know who I call. I've boxed all my friendships like that. And then I've put a weighting on them. For now, in terms of my season that I'm in, my social friends, I just make sure that there's one gathering where I can meet all of them. We all meet and we all take pictures, post it on Facebook. Yeah, done my bit. So my contact with them is not as much as my spiritual friends, because for me, no matter how busy I am, I need to make sure that I'm in tune, because otherwise, if I'm not going on the right path, no matter how much it looks to you that I'm very successful, I'm not keyed into God, I'm not really doing anything, and anything can happen. I want to make sure that they're putting me on check. So I'm connecting with them, we're praying, and the prayer is not so difficult. You know, God doesn't mean that you have to lock yourself up for 1 hour or this. It's just holding me accountable. Tomorrow morning, I've got somebody holding me accountable for 5 o'clock. Because we do things, we have checks in place. That's my spiritual base is very key to me. Then I have my career friends. So basically, this is how I manage my network. We need to put timings on these things. Otherwise, it's what you put in that you get back. And if we want to really move forward, we need to invest in the right environment. And it's so key. I remember in my job, and I might have shared it here before, when I was in a particular company and I couldn't break into the cadre, they were all men, white men. And I didn't really understand how they were all, how they conversed, but I just knew that when I was in the room, they seemed to ignore me. Even though I did all the work and I was meant to be presenting, I realized that there's one thing that will get them to look at me. And I know that the men in the room that are not looking at me, when I say this, you'll look at me. Does anybody know what I'm about to say? What is it that men like? It's football. So what I did was, I quickly tapped on this gentleman. I said, this thing that you watch on TV, that you're always going, ooh, ah, ooh, tell me all about it. What is this? All I can see is some men running around, hitting the ball and that. So I decided to learn the game of football. At the time, I'm not giving too much of my age away, or maybe I have, it doesn't matter. Chelsea was playing Middlesbrough, and they won. It was an FA Cup final. So automatically, I just said, I'm going with the guys in blue. Ruud Gullit was their manager, so I thought, this is perfect. So that's how I'm a Chelsea supporter. Any Chelsea supporters in the house? Thank you, sir. And I go to Stamford Bridge, and that's when, if you do meet me on the street and my voice is gone, it's because I've just gone to a football match. I'm really into it. So I got to understand this match. So it meant that when I went into this boardroom and I was meant to present, instead of me going with my papers and just sitting down, I come in and say, oh, good morning, did anybody watch the match? This happened. And all eyes were on me. That's how I broke into that network. That's how I became, mates with the white men. Football broke the ice. A lot of us, there's much more we can do. But there's certain things standing in our ways. One is fear. Shyness, all these things that God hasn't put in there. He's not part of his design for us at all. The way he's designed us, those things are not there. But if you keep on keeping them there, it will hinder you. Some of us that are probably in a stagnant area, there's nothing else about it. You need to check the why. If you don't know the why, I'll tell you right away. You need a change. If you're in any situation, business, career, or anything, you need a change. And the change could be a change of location, or leaving that job completely, doing something different. You need to do something. It could be retraining, but you need a change in your life to effect that change. If you're experiencing any plateau in any area, it needs a change. And I'm going to use my husband as an example here. I have taken his permission. So, he is a very intelligent man. He loves the Lord. As a matter of fact, all the qualifications I had, he supported me through it all. I like numbers, but I don't like writing. But to get an MBA, to get what is all the qualification I have, BSc, whatever it is, you need to write. So when I've written my jargons, I give it to him to read, and he's like, what have you written? I said, but the gist is that no, and he'll prove it. So he's very intelligent. I know my strength. I like numbers, but not the writing. Anyhow, so he joined this company a couple of years ago, but he stayed in this company for 14 years. When he joined the company, the department he took over, so he started off as a physiotherapist, now he's an ergonomist. So he was doing a lot of contracts for the NHS. They only had one client, and I think their turnover was about £1,000 or £2,000. But by the time he had spent 14 years in the company, they were reaching almost $1 million in terms of the business he's brought into the company. But the fact of the matter was, he was not deriving any more pleasure from this job. He had done as much as he could, and there was no more. He was the director. There's no more to go. He was not getting any more fulfillment. He was, at some point, was it 3 years, no pay rise. So you can imagine me, his wife, no pay rise, in the same job. Nothing else was coming out of this job, but he was given. And then things changed. The NHS became a bit wiser, whereby they'd used contractors to do a lot of the things that they could do. It's cheaper, isn't it, if you have things in-house than getting a contractor. So his company started losing the contracts they had. So he started losing members of his staff. Everything was happening. Eventually, it became a one-man band, which meant he that had been operating as a director was now hands-on. How frustrating is that? Try and position that. So he will come home. These things have an effect on the home, don't they? He will come home frustrated because he's not had a good day at work. And I'm thinking, see, you need to look at your particular situation. There's something there that you might need to do. And he went back and he did a second master's in the area of risk management. And another thing about future-proofing your career is always being able to think ahead, not just doing something about always being high demand. And I'll also give another story on that. Anyhow, at that point in time, he emphasized that the NHS were paying so much in terms of compensation, in terms of not managing their risk well, you know, when things go wrong, and it's costing them so much and they don't have money. So he went off and did this master's. And to the glory of God, when he finished, he got a new job that he's in now. And that job payment, the increment was over 30%. It was much more than what he'd ever got in that job for 14 years, just by retraining and researching what was going to be the up-and-coming thing in the next 2 or 3 years. So he had to do a complete change into a new environment. And now where he works, he was it last week or the week before? The week before, he now works in patient safety, which we all know is very topical, and he had to present a paper to the Minister of Health. He wouldn't have seen that if he had stayed where he was, and if he hadn't done what it required him to do to retrain. So I believe as Christians, we have that mandate on us to be a light wherever we go. We're not meant to be the tail at all. We're meant to be the head, and we're meant to be leading and being ahead of the game. And to do that, we have to always be researching whatever industry we are, even in business. Does anybody, I don't know if anybody's as old as that, but can you remember the Kodak cameras? Where are they today? That's the world we're in today. We have to be ahead of the game. Do we remember Blockbusters? Where are they today? Recently, we heard about House of Fraser, didn't we? What was happening to them? Yeah, but they were almost going to go before, although that's a very ironic statement because a couple of years ago, the person that took them over was going through the same thing, isn't it? But they changed their strategy. Do we know what their strategy was? Sports Direct. Do we know what their strategy is? What? Not quite. A lot of things are online. People shop online. So having big stores everywhere is not the thing. You have to reduce the number of stores you have and push a lot more online. What am I saying is, it's the same thing with our careers. You have to be ahead of the game. When I was studying to be an accountant, there were not many people that were actual chartered accountants. There were quite a bit of ACCA, which is Certified Chartered Accountants, but in terms of chartered, there were not many, especially if you're black. So when I finished, it was hot cake. I was in high demand. But after a while, those statistics changed. And I foresaw that, so I quickly knew that if you're going to be an accountant that's going to flourish, you have to have other skills. So I quickly went to get my Prince 2, be solid on my project management skills. I researched the industry and thought, what is in demand? Business analysis, project management, had my MBA. I built up myself. We have to invest in ourselves and always be ahead of the game, and you can do that easily. How? How can you do it easily? The internet, it's free access. You don't even need to pay money. Everything you want is there on the internet. Because I want to give room for questions. So there are three things that I'm just going to summarize the things I'm saying. Anybody who is thinking, should I go after a bill-paying job or a life-developing career? My advice is, you really need the life-developing career. You need to find what your God-given purpose is, and whatever it takes, it might be a long haul, but it's worth staying in it. Going for a quick, short fix is not sustainable. You will be frustrated, you wouldn't be fulfilled, and you wouldn't have that energy to see it through. So you need to invest the time. Now, I understand that some people might say they need some money, but don't let that be your focal point. You just need the money, but make sure you get right in the right track, chasing your life-developing career. In terms of turning your hobby into a career, you can do that, but make sure your passion, your gifting aligns, and also that you're solving somebody's problem. Actually, there's a friend of mine, her gifting and her hobby and her passion aligned, but she didn't have the perseverance, and she sews beautifully. The only thing with her is if you give her your fabric, you're not going to get it until a year. But when she does do it, she does it really, really well. So as a result of that, obviously, she lost a lot of clients. But guess what? The same thing she's doing now, what she does now, she trains people on how to sew, and she's flourishing because she doesn't have that deadline. So sometimes in terms of when you have a hobby, you might need a mentor, somebody that can actually help you and design it and shape it for you. Don't think you're alone. There are loads of people that can help. I'm happy to help. I have a bank of 50 other people that in different professions that are willing to help, and there's no payment involved. Sometimes by just chatting with somebody, your idea, they can help you shape it and make it a more fulfilling experience for you. The other area is in terms of if you're suffering a career flatline, you need to now find out the why. It might be that you're outside your area of passion, or you're no more solving a problem, or it's time to move on, or you need to retrain. All these things, if you package them very well, by the special grace of God, and obviously having God as your forefront, you should not be finding yourself not in a career. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I still believe in being able to, like you said, being able to proactively think ahead of the time. How many of you remember 2013 when the government was asking for the Macpherson report after Stephen Lawrence murder in Eltham? So that was the time I came to England. I came to England in 2005. And when I came, I was going to study something different. But the question I had opportunity, 4 different opportunities. In fact, one of the university was offering me half scholarship to study, to do masters in employment management, personnel management. But then I asked, Lord, what is in demand? What will be in demand in years to come? And I felt the Holy Spirit nudge me towards teaching. And I'm thinking, they don't pay teachers that much in Nigeria, so I'm not going to go into teaching. And at that time, because government was trying to correct the mindset in UK about racism and diversity, so they were looking for citizenship teachers. So instead of training to do anything, I went to go and train to be a citizenship teacher. But I realized within 2 years that once everything, the dust has settled, the demand may not be that much. So I began to work my way out of that right from the moment I started. Because I know 4 years down the line, they may not be in that hot demand. And that was exactly what happened. After 3 years, it just died down like that. And I'm trusting that this will be a season that God will open our eyes and start to instruct us the way to go. So if you have any question right now, I forgot to mention, one of the things that we believe that God has been speaking on our mind to do is to actually, people that have mindset for business, career development, and project entrepreneurship. So we're going to put together that team of people. Your pastor doesn't have the skill for some of these things. The only skill I have is to spend hours on my knee and hear God. But others that can do it, I will push you towards their direction for all the things. So if you have any question to ask about your career or anything that Sister Morenike had said today, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring talk. My question is very much maybe a practical one. I know you spoke about the many trainings, qualifications, retrainings that you have acquired, and for me, when I look at the options, like masters cost like £10,000, then you want to get another qualification, maybe, some of them pay, but then they might be a reduced pay because you're still training, and the bills are still stacking up, the rent still needs paying, everything is still there. So I'm very interested in just hearing about how do you fund, needing to retrain, needing to get another qualification, needing to get a master's, so that you can, attain higher, but when everything else is still on ground, how do you manage that?
Okay, thank you for the question. If I get it right, how do you find the funds to pursue your future education and things like that? I can only tap into my life, and you're going to bear with me. I might have shared this story before. So when I discovered that I needed to pursue the accounting qualification, I knew I didn't want ACCA, so I wanted the chartered. And to do the chartered, you must be linked with a particular company, different companies, and then they have to sponsor you and pay for it. And if you're in your God-given purpose, so I knew God had put me there. I tabled it before God. And I said, Lord, you have to make this opportunity for me. So all my accounting, I did not pay a penny. There are companies out there, particularly for the BME, which is what I'm passionate about. A lot of companies have funding for that. But sometimes you have to do that research. Obviously, you can tap into our bank and we can help. But you have to do the research and align yourself with those particular companies that have in their core social responsibility that they want to help BMEs. You get into that company, and so far whatever you're doing is in line with what they want to do, they will pay for your training. So in my case, they paid for my accounting training. When it was time for my exams, they gave me 3 weeks off paid. So I had to focus. There's no, focused on my exams. So I scaled through. That was for my ACCA. And if you're a young graduate, you can do it. There are so many graduate trainee roles out there. It takes a lot of researching to find them, but you're looking for the one in their CSR that they're really about diversity. That's what you're looking for. Then, when it came to my Prince 2, it's all about thinking ahead. I made sure that I got a job within the IT environment, and I know that they do a lot of projects. So I was able to put a business case forward to my manager that, as an accountant, I can better support you, because everybody wants somebody that can add value. And I knew that if I could put a case that I would not just be an accountant, but I can help you manage your project more effectively, that you will not lose money, I need a Prince 2 qualification. He bought into it. He paid for my Prince 2. In terms of my MBAs are very expensive. So the same negotiation. When I'm moving jobs, I change jobs. Depending on where you are, because where I am now, I kind of move like 3-4 years. But my move is different because I've got a network of people around me, so I hardly apply. My move is, I'm speaking to my network, I want to do this. They check in the network, they call me, do you fancy this? Then I go. I'm not necessarily applying, it's my network that is working. It's the same network that I use for people that are close to me, where I can. Obviously, I have to try the person. I don't use it for anybody because I don't want anybody to let me down. But before that, to break into senior management, I knew I needed an MBA. It's not that the job required an MBA, but I needed that MBA to my signature. And I looked at the money. It was a lot. So there was an option. I knew that I'm in finance, so maybe I have insight. The organization I was in, I knew that one of the departments had a lot of learning and development budget. So I'm a good networker, and I'm very strategic in my networking. So I knew how I networked to get in with the people in that department, and I knew that a vacancy was from that. Well, in terms of my networking, what I did was I strategically went for a mentor in that area. And she was the executive director there. She was very influential. And there are different ways you can do to go about a mentor. There are different ways if you want to connect with people up there. It's not just about going up to them and saying, oh, I like you, can you be my mentor? They will say yes, but you won't get hold of them, and they will not be effective for you. There's a skill around it in terms of you being able to sell yourself that have something you need. So they see you as a need. So it means that I'm not just doing my work as an accountant. Maybe there's something she needs. I'm furnishing her with that information. So she sees me as valuable. So when anything comes up in that area, they think she'll be valuable because I knew that they would be able to fund my 25K MBA course because they had the budget. So my strategy was not to get a pay rise or to move in my career. It was just to get there to get the funding. So I had a sideways move and got in there, made sure I added value. I was very visible. So when I say add value, when you're working in the workplace, I'm not just doing what I can do. So if there's a project going on, I'll volunteer myself. I will go beyond the call of duty, but I'll make them know that I'm there. Then I made the case again. Of course, this was a bit more difficult because the role I was in did not require an MBA. But because of what I'd given, my sideways move, I was like, okay, if you're not going to give me, I'm going to leave. But they needed me in that department, and I got my MBA sponsored. So yes, all the training and all the qualifications, I've not paid for them. But you have to be strategic, and you have to be open out there and research. And I can tell you from what I do, there are opportunities out there where they can pay for the training. You don't necessarily need loan. And if somebody is younger, I know most of us are from an African community, but if I can drop this, there are apprenticeships out there. And I advise people that the way the world is moving, especially in England, they value experience more than qualifications in certain areas. So depending on the field, like engineering, accounting, some of these qualifications, you don't necessarily need to go to university and get a loan. What you need to do is get into one of those top companies. Most of the big 5 accountancy firms, Rolls-Royce and things, the big companies, they have an apprenticeship degree program. So you still finish with a degree, but the best is that you get the experience, you have your degree, and you're earning money and you don't have a loan. And it's the same thing. I don't know, does that answer your question? Okay.
Any other question? All right, okay.
Thank you.
You were talking about networking. What are some of the tips that you can give on networking effectively?
Okay. Some of the tips are, first of all, breaking out of your normal self. First of all, you have to sit down. Honestly, it's like a job in itself. And you need to think about why do you need to increase your network and in what area? Is it career? Which area of your career? So let me stay with career because I do more of that. So then you look for conferences that align to what you want. See, not that I'm talking about career nugget, but I know that when I put my events together and I've got high caliber people that in your day to day, what I do best is connecting people. Some of these people, if you refer people to them, they might not honor it. But if they see you in a gathering and you connect with them and they see you, they go all out to help. So I know that that's the way it's best. So I put a networking event together. It's going to cost money. You tell people to buy the ticket and come knowing that you've strategically put people there to come for free because I want them to connect with some other people. People don't buy those tickets. Some conferences where there's a conference I went to, it's only 2 hours. 2 hours. And I paid, was it about £180? For this 2-hour conference, just because I knew who was going to be there. In that order, there were only 12 of them, but I needed them because I needed to add them to my connections. So in essence, you have to research the conferences in the area, depending on what you want. Some people want business contact, some people want career, some people want friendship. It depends on what you want. And then you weight it how much it is and find out what's happening in that circle. A cheaper way is LinkedIn, if it's professional, if it's career. Find people in the area that you want in your career and connect with them. When you send them a request, don't just get the request, establish a connection with them. Then follow them. See where they are going to be present, and you try and connect with them. I will go to an event if there's just one person I'm targeting, and I will make sure that one person is all I want to meet. If I go to a conference, I don't want to connect with everybody there, but I'm trying to target that person. So most of my networking is not necessarily for myself. It's because there are a bunch of people that I'm helping, and without that network, I cannot help people. So that's why I need to build my network. But it's things like that. At work, people sometimes don't like to go to the pub, but it's the environment where we are. I go to the pub, but I don't necessarily need to drink. At least the pubs are better now. In those days, it used to be full of smoke, but it's not a smoky place anymore. So it's quite it's an okay place to go. You can go to the pub. I would engage in a game of pool because it's in the discussion. It's not just being there. You have to strike a conversation with people and get into that network. I know some of my friends, they go Formula 1. I'm not into Formula 1, but it's worked for them. Some join golf. It depends on what you're after. Whoever you're after in terms of who you need in your network, it's finding them, finding what they enjoy. It's normally nice to connect with them in an area of pleasure as opposed to being very formal, where you can just talk and strike, and don't put your needs first. You work on that friendship, and yes, it's always a relational thing. Once you've got that relationship going, then they really lend their network to you. And when you meet one person, you're then exposed to their network. So it's beyond that one person, and that's some of the tips I've used.
Just take one more question. Yes.
Mine is not a question. I just want to thank you for the word. I was privileged to be in the first service, and Brother Kolade also spoke about purpose today. So hearing it first time, second time, I can relate to things you have said, but some of the points that he mentioned was that purpose is not the same as goal. Purpose needs sacrifices. It's not without risk. He mentioned quite a lot of things. But more importantly, I want to apologize on behalf of your parents, which will be probably my age group or above me, what we have caused you, this generation. Because for me, and my son will always repeat it anywhere, that I was the kind of mother that would say, you should be doing this. This is how you will get money. This is how you'll be. Look at others are making this. And, it's hearing it from you, hearing it from him, that made me think, wow, we have gone wrong. But we were taught like that. And I believe a lot of my own age group didn't actually achieve their purpose. We never achieved our purpose. I'm finding what I'm doing now more pleasurable, more achieving than studying PhD in environmental sciences. All the work I did in Lambeth was that I knew Lambeth, I knew the law. I know 1 year maternity leave is certain. Nobody can push me around. I'm a black woman. I stood there, I didn't move. It was more important for me to have a job that will feed me, feed my children, put them in the place that I wanted. So on behalf of parents who have misled you, I apologize. But I not only apologize, I pray to God that you will find your purpose and that you will fulfill it. Because it's more important for you to fulfill your purpose. You will enlighten us. We will get enlightened. And we will follow you. We are still alive. You can tell. Yes. If I still want to pursue a career today, I'll be 60 next year. I will still be able to do so. Nothing is stopping me. So we want to follow you. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Ma. God bless you, Ma. Thank you so much for that. There was something that I just wanted to drop. Does anybody know McKinsey's? They're one of the leading consultancy firms. So they did a research, and this is giving you knowledge for the future. It's not one of the say, but they've recognized that now it's taking them this long that there are not enough black people. It's a cause that I fight for, and I'm going to do it anywhere in the boardroom. Initially, it was all about women, But even when they looked at women, it was all a particular color of women getting into the boardroom. It still didn't get into the BME arena. Now, McKinsey are they're leading. And now they've said that there needs to be BME, not just in boardroom, but actually in senior management. There's some organizations, there's one organization I worked. If you're looking on the ground, their diversity is fantastic. But as you move higher and higher up, there's nothing. But with this report, it's going to change. So what I would implore everyone is, be the best at what you're doing. Be ready, because when they're looking for those people to take on those executive roles, you need to be equipped with the right skills, the right knowledge. Inform yourself, be knowledgeable, understand the language they speak. That is one thing that is key. I remember when I was trying to get into senior management, and they would say, you're very good, my appraisal, I'm excelling, but they never gave me the job until my mentor. I'm very hot on mentor, and I have mentors now. My mentor told me, your language, and I thought, you mean I don't know how to communicate? She said, no, you're not speaking their language. Go and study, listen to how they speak. Even if you need to attend a meeting as an observer, what language? And I realized that where I'm talking about team working, they're talking about collaboration. It's the same thing, but the words they use are different, and I had to adjust myself or firm this out. That's some of the words they were using. I had to change some of even though I was speaking the same thing, some of those things hinder us to get there. So what I'm saying is, learn the lingua, learn the things they do, what they enjoy, be prepared, because you don't know when that opportunity is going to present itself. You don't want to then be chasing, you want to be ready for it, because it's coming whereby they're going to specifically be wanting BME in House of Parliament, making these policies, because we're the ones that can effect this change. So just get yourself ready. Thank you.
Fantastic. We're almost done. I know. Let's just give it one more time to Morenike Ajayi. Amazing. Believe me, sometimes who you know determines what you know.